Hey party people, this is Jeremy for MVM, and today I'm here with the Kickstarter preview for Dragon Gyas, which is a game for 1 to 4 players. Plays in about 30 to 60 minutes depending on the player count. Today we're actually going to focus on the 2-player game because this is essentially made for 2 players fighting off in combat, because you're going to be taking on roles of a dragon and its dragon newts, or a mech called Hex Gyas and they're the knights. So you're going to be fighting over 5 rounds, attacking each other, kind of like Pacific Rim. So you got one that's like a katana wielding thing. It's got the big, the big swings, and you're also going to be turning and kind of missing or hitting. And then you have the dragon, which is going to be able to jump back and fire off fire off a kind of fire blast, and also suck the soul out of the other character. It's got some interesting stuff going on. It's basically a chess match, and then you also have your little guys who are running around trying to expose the weaknesses of the other person and meanwhile attack each other. Yes, there's a lot at play over these 5 rounds. There's a lot at risk for both players if things go sideways, but I'm going to show you how all that works today. We're going to be dealing with some asymmetry, which is up my alley. So let's go ahead and get to the boards. All right, let's talk about the setup for the game, and it starts with the board. You have a hex board, and there's big areas in the middle, and that's where your mech will move. And then you also have the side areas where these little spots right here, and as you can see, the support characters are on them. Whether you're using the Hex Gyas or the Grand Dragon, you're going to have 7 support characters. This little dial area thing right here just shows you which way you're facing. There's an arrow and 5 other spots going around, but also these characters, the smaller support characters, use them for adjacency and how they attack each other, and also how they attack, potentially attack the bigger characters if they find the right spot. Speaking of right spots, each character will also receive these little armor chits right here, and they will place them according to how they want. And this is like a little bit of the deception that you are placing these because you don't want your other characters to expose your weaknesses. There are 3 blanks, and then there are 2 hits. One is a weaker hit spot. It's kind of a weak point that your smaller support characters have an opportunity to hit with if you have the right ones. And then you have this one that's like basically your biggest weakness. And it not only does damage, but it also takes cards out of your hand. This is a really interesting thing. It's kind of a little bit of luck, but if you pull it off right, you get that strategy going, bad stuff can happen. This is your temple area and your health pool. Your health pool for the Grand Dragon and the Hex Gyas is completely different. You have 7 health over here for your Hex Gyas and 3 soul. And the Hex Gyas cannot lose these 3 soul, otherwise they lose the game. And the Grand Dragon cannot lose all 10 of its health. Now when you take damage, all the damage moves over to this side of this temple right here. I'll talk about that in a second. And this is where you can use either your health over here or discard these out of the game in order to activate cards. We'll talk about how that works a little bit later. But going back to this little temple area here, the temple goes in the middle. This is where all the enemies that are killed will go, and then they can basically come back into the field of play in the future of the round, or next time, because if they haven't activated yet, they can go on their turn. So let's focus on the units a little bit. You have your support units, and they are different types. Most of them have an attack, and they'll have a special ability. Now, they have a movement. They have a movement over here, and they also have health. And most of them are pretty, they're pretty puny. They're small humans, and there's these big things here. But they do fight each other. Some of them have strategic bonuses, though. So one of the sets of them has the ability to look at the little armor tiles and flip them over so they can expose the weaknesses. And then there's other ones that can jump in there and attack the big character. So they kind of support you and help you out. There are other ones that heal their fellow, the fellow troops around them. There's ones that help the injured troops get back into combat faster. So they all have their little, little ways they can help and potentially do some big damage if they can get in there just in time. They expose that big spot, take away cards. That's devastating. I should also say you have initiative cards. These initiative cards are numbered 1 through 10, and they are split 5 between each one. The Grand Dragon will have 1, 3, 5, and 7, and the Hexagyas will have all the even numbers, 2, 4, 6, 8, and 10. So here's a little advantage right here, right away. Those will be played, one will be played each round, and it will help you determine several different things during the round. So it's really important how those play out. And since you're only playing 5 rounds of the game, it's important what you play and when you play. Now, each character is going to have 18 cards. They're going to have 6 movement cards. They're going to have 6 regular attack cards and 6 special cards. You will only choose 3 of the special cards and 3 of the attack cards. So it's really important how you build your strategy. You will always have all 6 of your movement cards. And let's just kind of talk about them real quick. On each one, you're going to have basically their speed, how fast they will interact. It will also show you damage if it is a damaging card. It will also show what kind of arc it damages in or what arc it moves in, so you know exactly how the card works. You may also have a cost. Now, most of these do not have a cost, but if they do, sometimes they will ask you to use your HP or your soul. Sometimes they will ask you to discard things from your discard area. And I'm kind of saying discard because I want you to know once you get hit, it's kind of like a discard area, and you can spend that to activate even more powerful cards, because some of these cards actually have potential combos and extra damage on them if you play them correctly. So that's a big choice in this game. What cards are you bringing in, using your initiative cards, and how you play with your support characters. I think the last thing I need to highlight is these boards. Now, at the beginning of the game, they actually will be like your kind of your fog of war, and they'll be placed in the middle of this board right here, and there's a brown area in this middle that you can't place in. And what it does is, and I'm just going to move this out of the way like this, because none of these characters can be on here at the beginning of the game. What you would do is you place this board here in front and block off, as you can see in both cameras, and I'm kind of blocking off my field of view because you can't see where people are placing things. You can't see where the armor tiles are going. You can't see the initial placement. There's a lot of different things, where the first control cards go, what initiative is out there. All that stuff is going to be opened up, and then we are going to begin our game. Everything counts, party people. Let's go ahead and talk about the actual gameplay. Now we're at a point where we're going to have the actions in the game. So let's get right to it. The first one is going to be the initiative phase. And I should just explain the full phases here. You have your initiative phase, control phase, command, and then finally the end. And we're going to start with the initiative. Now you remember these cards I said, you have the even numbers for your mech character, and then you have the odd numbers for your dragon character. So there's already an advantage on this side, but this really boils down to how you want to play this out. It actually plays out for another phase in this game, which I will highlight when the time comes. So you're going to play these cards. It also works as tiebreakers, and then boom, we know our initiative for the round. Next up is the control phase, and in this phase you're going to be playing your cards. So now this is down to the actions that you want to play. You're going to play these face down on your board, and then you're going to reveal one at a time. So these are actually activate in order of your initiative on here. Okay, so these 2s, 1, 2s, and 3s on here are going to matter, and then you're going to act first based on those. Tiebreaker goes to the initiative, and this is where the asymmetry comes in. You got your monster here that can fly around. Okay, they can attack, fly around, shoot this fire. It has a soul draining technique, and you remember the Hexagyas has a smaller health pool, and it also has this soul resource that it cannot lose. If it loses all its soul resource, the game is over. If any of these people lose, either one loses their health, the game is over. So you want to keep those health pools strong, but you also want to pay attention to how can you get off those big special powers as well, which you're going to need to get damaged to spend some of those. It's very interesting that way. So now you're going to have that character, and then you have the Hexagyas, which has counter moves. So it has some counter damage, it's got movement, and what it's trying to do is pin in the corner, pin the Grand Dragon into a corner, and so it can pull off combos and pull off some big damage. That's kind of the goal of the game. Restrict movement versus, movement. And they also have some counter cards, so they're waiting for certain attacks to happen. They can pause their movement, different cool stuff like that. And you're trying to just line them up in their different areas because certain cards will not match up with what you're playing. I mean, you're programming your 3 cards out, but things may not necessarily go your way. You may be swinging and missing between the 2 characters. It's kind of like a silly round between you 2. So just paying attention to that because you're going to be altering the way your hexes go. You could be moving and completely missing each other, but then you play a certain laser beam that can go 2 different ways, and now all of a sudden you guys are taking out each other because sometimes you can be tilted the exact wrong way, and guess what? You let out a beam that goes kind of in a certain formation, and then all of a sudden you're hitting them. And then maybe you can play a card after that, or maybe it deals an extra damage because you played the specific card. Or maybe the dragon can get away now because you did something, you know, kind of silly. But that's how that plays out, and the moves are big, and now all of a sudden you take damage, it goes to your damage pool, and you may potentially use that to your advantage to play certain special cards. That's a lot going on with those 3 cards, 15 actions, entire game. Now you move on to the command phase, and this is where your little troopers go to work. And what you have is, once again, you're going to have 7 troops total. What they do is they kind of provide support and they take out each other, so you can't use them to your advantage. They have all different types of abilities, but they mirror each other. So you're going to have characters that help heal and bring each other back to battle. You're also going to have characters who just, you know, they mostly damage each other. You're also going to have characters that are good at being in position and then ultimately revealing those armor tiles I talked about. They can sometimes reveal 2, and when they do, that may potentially expose your weak spots. And if you remember what I was saying, if you hit the right one, the big one, you can also take control cards out of their hand. That's super important. There's even a character that does that anyway. So you really want to make sure you pay attention and pick those guys off with the other ones. And there's even a healer that regenerates health for people in their area. So this is all strategic and how it all plays out. Yeah, there's a lot going on here. Slick card play, right? Now, when you get to the end phase, and once that all plays out, you get to the end phase, you're going to discard basically everything. You're going to discard your control cards, and most importantly, when you do, you're going to be able to get 2 of those cards back. So you'll always have, you know, extra cards there, but you get to pull 2 of those cards back, and this is why it's important, because sometimes you let off the right combo of cards, and you may want to use them again and maybe use them in a different way. That's basically the run of the game. There's a lot going on. You want to pay attention to your health pools because of how you lose them and how you can use them. But if you lose all your health from your health pools, or the Hexagyas loses all of its soul, the game ends. And also, if the Hexagyas cannot win the battle by the 5th round, it basically kind of powers down and it loses the game. All right, party people, hopefully I gave you a good overview of the game. Let's get to my final thoughts. All right, party people, we are here. This is final thoughts. And, you know, if I inject my opinion here, take it with a grain of salt. But I will tell you, I'm kind of a sucker for games that are asymmetric, because if they work, they feel good, and then you also get to feel your power, and you can completely miss it. And that's the interesting part about asymmetric games, if they do work. Now, what this game does is it makes you feel a couple different things. One, your advantages are very clear with your initiatives, and also how you can take advantage with your smaller characters. That's just the beginning, because how you place your armor tiles, where you start out the game, I mean, how you lay out your control cards, you can hit or miss on your program. There's basically the feeling of, oh my God, I missed, or yes, I pinned them, or I played the right counter card, or I hit the character and I'm really making them freak out because the soul damage that they've taken. This is straight up a battle chess match, and it does give me that feeling, that Pacific Rim feeling. You know, like you're not even punching in this game. It's just you're shooting stuff and you're slashing. But anyway, that's the feeling that I got when I played this game. And I felt like every decision in it mattered. Even how the troops come back into the game matters. Because when they do, you know, and that's a really interesting thing that I don't think I highlighted as much, as how the smaller characters work together to bring each other back in combat, and how they emphasize to take away those armor tiles. and expose them, because that's a huge thing if you get lucky enough to make it happen. But yeah, there are a lot of interesting things going on here, and I hope inform you about the game and help you make a backing decision, because I can never ever tell anybody what to do with their money. But I would like to thank the publisher for sponsoring this video today. I'd like to thank you for your time. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments below. But until next time, thank you so much for joining us once again, and stay safe, y'all. You have a wonderful day.